Hey guys, it's Sam back with another tutorial. This time we are going to be working on our Illustrator drawing assignment, which is going to be the Advanced Pen Tool Vector assignment. So first things first, you're going to go into Schoology and you are going to download this file. So I'll have this up for you guys, the Advanced Pen Tool Vector assignment. I'll set it up either as an Illustrator file or as a zip file. And if it's zipped, you just have to uncompress it and then open it. And then once you have it on your folder, go ahead and double click it to open it. So it should launch Illustrator. And these are all the assignments that we're going to do, or all the artboards that we're going to create. So let's start off just by checking out our layers. We close down the links, set all this to the side. We don't need much of this. So if you see in our layers panel, we have our templates and we have our working layer. So make sure we are on our work layer. And then we are going to go into our first one here. So we'll just take it across. I try to set up, some beginning pen tool exercises, and then we're going to get to some more advanced exercises that are not necessarily pen tool related. We're going to be working with different shapes, different tools, but we'll start off with the pen exercise because it's always good to know. So first we're going to start off and select our pen tool, which is right here, right under our selection tool, direct selection tool. We have our pen tool, and we are gonna set a fill of no color, so we'll do none, and a stroke of choose any color, just for the sake of us being able to see, because we do have these transparent images. I'm gonna choose maybe like a magenta or something, so choose something that's highly visible. And I'm gonna up the stroke to maybe 4 points. Test it out right now. So if you see this line, we're just gonna create a straight line. So this is how the pen tool works. We click here and it creates a point, and I hold my space bar and I drag and I go to the next point and I click there, and that created a point. Now if I press escape, it no longer has that feature where I could continue. So that's one of them. Okay, so for this next one, we're going to choose our pen tool. Again, it should be over here. Choose my pen tool. I'm going to choose a stroke with that same color, the magenta color. And I'm going to choose no fill and make sure my stroke is at 2 points. I'm going to zoom in here. Whoops. And I'm going to just click at each different point. So I'm going to click on my starting point, click up here, here, and I'm going to take this the whole way. So this is just a little practice getting used to clicking and moving on here. And now once we get to the end, we choose our selection tool, and we have our shape set up there. Now this next one, let me go ahead and zoom in. We're going to use the same pen tool with the same certain color stroke. I like to go with the bright color. And first I'm going to click on this point here. So that's our starting point. Click once. Now wherever I move, it's going to show me where that line is going. However, this is a curved line, so in order to get the curves, you have to click and drag. I'm going to click and drag at the top there and let it go. So as I'm clicking and dragging, I could see my line where it's going to end up. So now I'm going to go here at this bottom point, click and drag. And the less points you use, the better. But I mean, you could always do something like this, click and drag, click and drag. So the more you drag, you see that line starts getting closer to where I need it to go. So I could do something like that. And just practice clicking and dragging. If you ever mess up, just do Command or Control Z to undo, and it'll take you back a few spots. And just work it slowly. So it's better if you don't put the points too close, but also you don't want to go too far, because then you won't be able to achieve what you want to do. So you could get into some trouble if you put them too far, and again also too close. So I'm working this maybe know, about this much space from here to here, about that much space between the between my points. So once I am done, I could just go back to my selection tool, and I am done with that part. And let me go ahead and change the color of these. Just for fun, I could always choose my eyedropper tool and click on this one, and it's going to give me the same colors as and point size as that. And we'll continue on to the next shapes. For this bowl over here, we could click on this point here. If we hold shift and just move our cursor over here, it's gonna allow us to lock that line straight. Click here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and click about the center point here, click and drag so I could get that bowl shape, and then I'm gonna connect it over here. I could tell it's connected because it gets the cursor turns into that little circle with the pen, and click on it, and now I have it all connected. So for these, I'm going to click here at our starting point, and then I'm going to click and drag here. I could hold shift, that way it gives me a straight horizontal line for my curve here. And then I'm going to click here, hold shift again. It's going to go up a little, up and down, and another imaginary point here. And another one here that goes up and down. So this one's a vertical one, and then here it's a horizontal one. Vertical, horizontal, vertical. So I'm holding shift at every point that I click. I'm holding shift until I drag, and then I let go of my mouse. So just go ahead and practice, and once you're done, go ahead and hit escape. Go ahead and try that a few more times. You know, if you mess up, go ahead and delete it and start over. Okay, so this spiral is technically a circle, so I'm going to go, if I clicked off of it, I'm going to click on my pen tool. Click, I'm going to click at this point, and then I'm going to click and drag here, hold shift, and then I'm going to go to this point down here, click and hold shift, drag it just a little bit, and then I'm going to go to this point, hold shift, undo that one. I'm going to get more of that center of that line, and understand it's not going to be perfect, but try to get it as close as you can. So this one's not a whole lot of points. If you see what I'm doing, there's just points on the top, you know, a vertical imaginary line here, a vertical imaginary line there. This one and this, and then go ahead and hit escape. And there we go. Okay, so now this one is not going to be necessarily a shape. Actually, before I go to this one, let me go ahead and show you another tool if you ever need to do this. If I click on these three dots down here, I should be able to find my spiral tool. So it's right here. And I could click it and drag it and bring it into my toolbar. Now I can click on that one. Hit escape on this, and I could just click and drag, and I can make a spiral. And it might not be, you know, as detailed as this one, but I still get a spiral. So that's just another tool that we have. For this sun, let's go ahead and we have two ways. We could practice like we've been doing with our pen tool, or we could make it out of shapes. The harder way is using the pen tool. Let me show you the easy way first. I could select the ellipse tool, and if I just start clicking and dragging and I hold shift, I could make a circle, and then I could select my selection tool, and I could move it over here, and if I hold shift and drag, I can make it a little bit bigger. Now one thing that I could also do is do a rectangle tool, and I could drag this like this, so I make a rectangle, and if I zoom in a little bit, you see those 4 points right there. if I put my cursor just over that, I could click and drag these and I could make this shape, which is essentially that shape. So I'm gonna, at this point, I think I'm gonna drop my stroke width, so maybe to about 2 points, and I could resize this a bit, and let's bring it up here, zoom in a little. I don't know why it's not letting me resize it like that, maybe because it's so small. So I'm gonna delete that one, change your plans, and I'm gonna use my pen tool, and I'm gonna go ahead and create this shape. So just click and drag. And go here. Now I could keep on doing these other ones, but what I could do is copy this one. So I could do Command C, Command V. Actually, I want to make sure I select all of it. So I'm going to get my selection tool and select it. So I select by clicking and dragging, and I could do Command C, Command V, and that makes a copy. So I could bring it over here. If I put my cursor just on the top right area right here, see how my cursor changes over to those two little arrows, and then I could rotate it and drag it along here. I could also copy this by holding Option or Alt and then dragging this one. That's another way to copy. And I could rotate it, match that, and I could do Command C, Command V again, just to show you that one more time. And this one's a little bit longer, so I could drag this one, or I could hold Option and Alt again, rotate it, and make it a smaller size, and so on and so forth. So you could finish that one up as well. So now let's go into these curves, which we have been doing, but here's another one. So this tells you the anatomy of a curve. So first you click on an anchor point, and then you select another anchor point. So once you click and drag, it's going to give you these the curve lines here. So this is what we're basing it off of. This is the way it's shooting the curve, and this one too. And then it just connects over here. So on this first one with the pen tool, click on the anchor point and drag to the red dot. So we're gonna click on our pen tool. Again, make sure our fill has nothing and our stroke is any random color. And for this, I'm gonna leave my stroke at 2 points. You could always come back and change it, but I'm gonna click with the pen tool and drag to the red point here. So that's gonna set that curve path. Now I'm gonna click on this next point, which is right here, and click and drag down and take it to where my point here matches this area. And you can see the top one matching as well. And then I'm going to move to the next one, click and drag. I'm going to go to that red dot, and so on and so forth. So can't really see this one, somewhere right here, click and drag. Pretty close, it doesn't have to be exact, but try to get it as close as possible. Take this one to the red dot, and take this one to the red dot. Now it says when done, control click on Windows or command click with the Mac away from the artwork to deselect. So that's another way. Press command or control and click somewhere else instead of hitting escape, and that's another way. So now we're going to do these other curves. So I'm going to click with the pencil and then click on the anchor point and drag to the red dot. So I'm going to click on the first one, I'm going to click and drag to here, to the red dot. Then on the next one right here, click and drag to that red dot, and so on and so forth. So click and drag, and that way you start getting a feel for how these curves work. And once you get to the end, just hold command or control and just click away. And now let's go to number 3. So this one's another curve, but this one has like a more open, kind of like a one of those what's it called, French curves. So we're going to do this. So click and drag to this circle, Click and drag to this one. Click and drag this one. And notice how it's a little bit off. That's okay. We're just trying to get the overall shape, trying to understand how these curves work. And feel free to practice, just randomly. And we should be able to learn this pretty quick. So do Command or Control, click away. So there we go. Not perfect, but it's pretty close. And now let's see. We're going to close a curve. So all of these were just open curves. This one we're going to close it. So with the pencil, click on an anchor point and drag to the red dot. So I'm going to drag here to the red dot. And then B, click on anchor point and drag to the red dot. So click on this one. Go to the red dot again. So we start here. We're going to do that curve. And then to close the shape, return to the first anchor point. When a circle appears next to the pen icon, click on the anchor point. Whoops. And then drag to the red dot. So we're going to go to this point. So see how we get that little circle. Now click and drag and go up to our red point here and see how that's controlling that part of the curve. So it kind of matches up with the first one. So somewhere there, and there we go. Now we have a closed curve. Go ahead and at this point, go ahead and do a file, save as. And go ahead and put your name on it at the very end. So after assignment, but before the .ai, make sure we do not erase the .ai. Put an underscore or hyphen and put in your name. So I'm going to put Limon and go ahead and save it. And click OK. So when you turn it in, this is what you're going to turn in. Again, make sure you complete these assignments. I'm just doing this for the sake of the video, but go ahead and complete all of these. And then we have more pencil exercises. So if I ever want to deselect something, just click on my selection tool, click randomly outside, make sure I don't click on anything, and then I could start fresh. So let's go ahead and go to this next page. So for these, we're gonna click once in the middle for where it says like it has a red point. Hold shift while making vertical or horizontal lines. For any blue spots, we're gonna drag the handle to the number. And then for any red areas, we're gonna hold Alt or Option while dragging the handle to the number. So straight lines, we are just doing basically just clicking on each point. So these are all the reds, and then right here we get to the blues. So we're clicking and dragging to those, and then once we get to those yellows, which are going to be corner points, we're going to have to do the Alt or Option. So once we get to these, so we'll start off real basic again. So click on our pen tool, and I'm going to keep my fill with no color and my stroke to a kind of a bright color, just so that we know what we're doing. And then I could change my point type, my stroke size to 2 points. So I'm going to click in the middle here where we start, and then we're going to hold shift to make a straight line. So go to shift and go to number 2, and then we're not going to hold shift, and we're going to go click on the center of number 3, and we're going to go to number 4 and click, and we go to 5 and click, and then we go to 6 or the last one, and we're going to connect it. So that gives us that little circle next to our pen icon, and we are done with that one. So remember, hold shift only for horizontal or vertical lines. So we're going to click on number 1 here. This is our starting point, the center. You zoom in a little bit more. Click on the center of number 2, and we could go to number 3. However, we're going to want to hold shift so that we get a perfectly straight horizontal line. And I'll click on the center of 4, center of 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, I'm holding my space bar so that I could temporarily navigate. And then click and drag with my mouse, let go space bar, and then I can click center of 9, hold shift since we're going horizontal, center of 10, and let's go ahead and close it. So make sure I click not where I have a little plus sign here, but where it connects to that top point, and my cursor gets a little 0. And there we go, we have our star. So now let's navigate to this one. Let me zoom in. Click on my number 1. go to 2. Since we are going horizontal or vertical, hold shift, click on the center of 3. No shift, click on the center of 4. Hold shift to go to 5. No shift to go to 6. And then go to the center of 7. Hold shift to go to center of 8. Go to 9. Hold shift to go to the center of 10. And then let's go ahead and connect it. Once my cursor changes, I am good with that one. So let me zoom out. So this is all straight lines. Now we're going to work with curved lines. So we have 2 shapes here. So once I zoom in, it zooms into what I have selected, which was this previous one. So I could always just click escape, or actually click on my move tool. My selection tool. Click away from it, and now I could just zoom in. It's going to go to the center of my screen. Zoom in here. So it says click in the center of each red number and drag the handle to the blue number. So again, click on our pen tool. We're going to click on number 1, click on the center. Actually click and hold. So I just undid that. And while I'm clicking and dragging, I'm going to hold shift and go to the center of 2. And then I could let go of my mouse, then let go of shift. Then I could go to 2, click in the center of it, hold shift, we are going vertical, and drag it down to the center of 2. Let go of the mouse, let go of shift. Now go to the center of this red 2, click, hold shift, and drag it till this point is at the center of this 2. Let go of the mouse, let go of shift. Put our cursor over this number 2, the red one. Click and hold. Then hold shift and drag it up to this number 2. Let go of the mouse, let go of shift. And then we're going to close it. So we're going to click on, see where I get that circle icon. Click and hold shift. I'm actually clicking and holding. And I'm dragging to the right to go to that number 2. And there we go. We have a completed circle. So we're going to do that several more times here. So we're going to click and hold on this number 1, hold shift, go to that 2. Click and hold this 3, hold shift, go to 4. Click and hold on 5, hold shift, go to 6. Click and hold on 7, hold shift, go to that number 8. And click and hold and drag to the right, hold shift, and go to that number 2. And we're going to repeat this again. So click and hold, and then hold shift also, go to this number 2. Click on number 3 and click and drag down, hold shift, and go to this one. I can't tell the number, but that should probably be 4. Click on number 5 and hold, and also hold shift and drag to this number 6. Click and hold on 7, hold shift and drag up to number 8, and then let's close it off. Click, hold, and then hold shift and drag it to the right, and so on and so forth. So I'll do these other ones fairly quickly. And again, if you ever mess up, go ahead and undo it, or you could delete a like that one. See how I'm too high? So I'm gonna click and hold here, and there we go. So I could always do Command or Control Z to undo. So try to get used to that Command or Control Z. It'll just make you a little quicker for any errors. And there we go. We have this one completed. Now let's go to this one, the Batman. So it says, this one we're going to do straight lines with curves. So click in the center of each red number and drag the handle from the red to the blue number. So I'm going to click. Let me see. Let me click on my selection tool, click over here, and then zoom in. The reason I did that was because I was still selected on the circle we just did, and if I would have zoomed in, it would have gone straight to that area. So I want to zoom in here. So I'm going to hold shift to make a straight line. So I'm going to click on my pen tool, click on number 1, hold shift, click the center of number 2, let go of shift, then I'm going to go click on 3, hold shift, click in the center of 4, Again, I'm holding shift when I have vertical or horizontal lines. Now from here, we're gonna do this curve up to the 5 and the 7. So we're gonna click, drag handle and release on number 5. So we're gonna click on number 5 and hold, and drag till we get this point up to the middle of number 6, release it, and then let's go ahead and click on the middle of number 7. Move over here, hold shift, click on the center of 8, then go to number 9, click and hold and drag, take it to 10, and then go to 11. Now again, we have a big curve here, so we're going to go from this 11 to 14. So go to number 12, click and drag, and we're dragging to number 13, and then go down to number 14. Now this says at this point you can switch back to the selection tool, duplicate the line you made, Command C and Command V, or Control C, Control V, and flip vertically by going to Object, Transform, Reflect, and Vertical. So we could, for more practice, do the same thing on this side, but this is a quick trick. So let's go ahead and click on our selection tool, and then we're going to duplicate it. So we're going to do Command C or Control C and then Command V. Whoops. So if I just get one line right there, I'm going to release it. So I'm going to undo it, sorry. Click away, click on my selection tool, and then click on this whole selection. Now do Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V. So that gives us a an identical copy of this shape. So now what we're going to do, go to Object, Transform, and then we're going to click on Reflect, and we're going to make sure we go to Vertical and go ahead and click OK. And now we could just, since we're on our selection tool, we could just drag it and move it till it snaps into place. And there we go. Now one thing, these are not joined. They're still separate shapes, so we could technically join them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my direct selection tool. I know I'm joined right here, so I'm going to zoom in very little. Actually, I'm going to deselect these by selecting on my selection tool and go ahead and clicking away and then zooming into this area. Now if I click on my direct selection tool, I'm going to click and drag right here so I could select both of these points. It's hard to see, but I could right click and then simply do join, and then I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and I'm going to select both of these points by clicking and dragging, and then right click and then click on join. So now they joined. So now if I click on my selection tool and I zoom out, I have a completed shape instead of two separate shapes. And go ahead and save it. Remember, save often. And let's go ahead and move on to this other Batman logo. So this one has straight, curved, and corner lines. So, you know, it starts getting a little more complex. But like I said, just practice, keep at it, and eventually you'll get the hang of it. The feel's a little weird at first, but you know, it takes a while, but once you get it, you're able to perform a lot better when it comes to designing certain things or making selections in Photoshop. You know, if you're going to be doing Illustrator, it's just a great tool to know. So I'm going to click on my pen tool and I'm going to zoom in. See, I was selected on this one, so that's why it zoomed in over here. I know it's to the top right. So I'm going to click on the center of number 1 here and then hold shift and go to number 2 and click, and that's going to take me to that number 2. Then I'm going to go to number 3, click on that one, and now let's see. Actually, I'm going to undo that. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to drag to number 4. So that gives me a slight curve right here. Now I'm going to hold Alt or Option and then drag the handle down so we could change directions down to this number 5. So that's going to change my direction. Normally it would have gone that way, but now it's going to go down. So now I'm going to click on number 6, the center of it, and drag to the number 7. And then I'm going to go to the number 8, the center, click and drag it up to the number 9. Now if I hold Option or Alt and I click on this point and move this curved line to the center of number 10. So now we're basically changing directions. These are curves that we are creating when it says corner lines. Corners. So now we're going to click on the 11 and drag down to the number 12. Click on number 13, drag to the number 14. Hold Option or Alt, and then that gives us our transform tool here, and we're going to drag this to number 15. So this is just changing the angle that we're going to. So I'm going to click on 16, drag to 17, click on 18, drag to 19, hold Option or Alt, and then drag this point up to 20. Click on 21, drag it to 22, and hold Alt or Option, drag it to 23. So that one's just extending the curve. And go to 24 and drag to 25. So now again, we already completed half of this. So what we could do is to switch back to your selection tool. So let's go to our selection tool. I'm going to deselect by clicking elsewhere and then select this again. And to duplicate it, I'm going to do Command C and Command V, or Control C, Control V. Then I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and I'm going to do Reflect, and make sure I'm in vertical, and go ahead and click OK. So now I'm going to drag this to where I get that vertical center line. So let's see that intersection right here. And again, I'm going to zoom in to the meeting points, which are going to be here and here. And I'm going to click on my direct selection tool. The direct selection tool lets us select just the points. So if I go here, everywhere where there's a point, it lets me select it. They're very small, very hard to see. But if I just click and drag in this area, that way make sure I select those. If I do right click and then go to join, that's going to join those two shapes. And then go to the bottom, select and drag, and then right click and join. And you can tell right here it connects these as well. So now I have a solid shape. Let's go ahead and save it. And then we could do the next one. I'm going to use my selection tool, select away from this Batman logo, and then zoom into our Superman logo. Click our pen tool, and we'll just continue. So this is more straight line, curved lines, and corners. Okay, so I'm going to click on number 1, hold Shift, click on number 2 to make a straight line, go to 3, go to 4, go to 5, and drag to number 6. So that gives us a curve. Click on 7, click on 8, and drag to number 9. Click on 10, click on 11, drag to number 12. So that would technically create a curve going this way. However, we want to change it to a corner. So if I hold Option or Alt and drag this corner from number 12 to number 13, and go ahead and finish it off right here. Now let's go ahead and do this little corner right here, this little section. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Click on number 1, that's our starting point. Click on number 2, click on number 3, drag to number 4. Now if I hold Alt or Option, drag that handle to center of number 5 and go back to the starts. Now let's do this one. Number 1, hold Shift, drag to number 2, click on number 3 and drag to number 4, click on 5, 6, and close it. Let's go to this one, click and drag from number 1 to number 2. This is going to give us that curve over here. So then I'm going to click and drag from 3 to 4. Then from 5 to 6, hold Alt or Option and take that up to number 7, the center of 7. Click on number 8 and drag to number 9 so we could see that curve we're making right here. So drag to number 9. And we're going to take it this way. However, if I could see the preview how it's going to do that curve right here, which I don't want. So hold Option or Alt and drag to number 10 and go ahead and close it. And next we're gonna click and drag from 1 to 2, click on 3, click on 4, and then go ahead and close it. So there you go. That's how we made all those shapes now. So knowing all that, go ahead and practice on this spider. So I'm gonna zoom in and just go ahead and start clicking away. I'm not gonna do it all, but you know, based off of all this practice, you should be able to do it. So again, it's just more repetitive practice. So I'm gonna click here, click at this point, drag. And now if I hold Option or Alt, I could bring this down. And so I'm changing the angle there. I go here, go there, hold Option or Alt and drag this one this way because I want to go that way. Here. So I'm tracing it at the black line. You could trace it at the gray line, or you could do right in the middle. So I'm going to click and drag this way. And then I'm going to click and drag this way. Click and drag here. Click and drag here on this little corner. Click and drag on this point. Now I'm going to hold Option or Alt so I could change this and make it go a different way so we could get a corner. And click and drag this point, and let's just go up to the body. And so you get the gist of it. So go ahead and complete it all. You can always just complete half of it and then go ahead and connect it. So I'm gonna select my selection tool, and I'll let you finish that one off on your own. And now let's go onto this bike here. Okay, so this project uses the pen and ellipse tools. You can use the rectangle tool to draw the front and rear forks. So it's going to be the front and rear here. The front and rear forks have a white gap where they cross over the wheels. So that's these white areas. And then we're going to use a wide white stroke to create the gap. The same applies to the seat and the chain guard. So the seat, we could tell it's cut off here and here. So we could physically create shapes that stop here, or we could use a white stroke to show that cutout. So first we're going to start off with some wheels. So I'm going to get my ellipse tool, and I'm going to fill it with no fill, and I'm going to change the stroke to black. So I'm going to go up here and choose black. I'm going to up my stroke to about 5. We'll see how that is. So I'm going to go at about, judging by the size of this tire, so somewhere right here and roughly right here. And I'm going to click and drag and then hold Shift. And I want to get it pretty close. I want to get it kind of centered. And then I'm going to choose my selection tool. And then I'm going to move it a little bit. So what Shift does is it constrains it. If we don't hold Shift, we could draw, you know, an oval like this. So holding Shift just constrains it to a perfect circle. So let me delete that. And then I'm going to use my selection tool to select this wheel. Now I notice that it's a little too thin, so I'm going to up the stroke and just bump it up so we get something very similar to what that wheel actually is. Looks to be about 13 point size. Let me resize it just a little bit. And there we go. So now what we could do is we could actually select this one with our selection tool, do Command or Control C, Command or Control V, and now we copied, essentially copied that circle or that wheel. And I'm going to place this one over here. Okay, so next I'm going to create the front and rear forks. So let's see, front and rear forks. You could use the rectangle tool to draw those. So using my rectangle tool, actually I want to make sure to deselect this wheel. So I'm going to, with my selection tool, click somewhere in a random place where there's no shapes. And now I'm going to select my rectangle tool. And I'm going to switch this right here. So I'm going to make sure my fill is black and my stroke has no stroke. And I'm just going to click and drag a rectangle here. And now click on my selection tool and I'm going to drag it over here. What I'm going to do is try to match this part of the bike. So I'm going to put my cursor right over this corner here and I'm going to rotate a little bit and try to match this area here. Once I get the angle right, I could always come back and, you know, make this thicker or thinner. So let's try to match that. Match that. We want to make sure also we don't go too far. We want to keep it within here. Make sure you don't leave it too far back here. What I'm looking for is I want to make sure that I don't have like this little edge right here, this little sharp corner. I want to bring it all the way in, and then right here as well. I don't want to have it here because, you know, it doesn't end there. So I want to take it up somewhere around there. So now what I could do is actually copy this one. So since we're doing the front and rear forks, another way to copy instead of Command C, Command V is hold Option or Alt and then click and drag this shape over here. And now I'm gonna go ahead and rotate this one, zoom in, and I'm going to try to match this this angle here. I'm going to leave this about here, that way actually let's take it all the way to the edge, and then let's go all the way up to about here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this one again, so hold Option or Alt and click and drag it, and now I'm going to rotate this one to where it's at 180 degrees, and I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to go ahead and place it here. Now I could tell that I'm going to have to shorten it, so I'm going to take it back all the way here. And I'm going to match this bottom point with it, and then I'm going to drag it down here. And I'll just go ahead and take it this way. Now, one thing that I could do is I could click on my direct selection tool, select this corner, and then use my left arrow key to try to match that angle there. And we still have a little bit of fixing here, but we'll take care of that in a bit. I'm going to bring this one up a little bit, that way they're both kind of close right there. Okay, so next I'm going to work on the seat post. So I'm going to copy this one since I already have a very similar angle. So I'm going to do Command C or Control C and Command V or Control V and drag this one here. So the angle's pretty close. Take it right here. Now if I notice this one has like a straight edge there, actually don't worry about that. I'm just going to take it all the way across. I'm not going to worry about these spaces here because the stroke that the instructions mentioned, they're going to be on the seat post and on the chain guard. So let's go here, make sure this this post goes a little bit into the seat and it goes a little bit into this chain guard as well. Make sure you don't leave it like this. Make sure you're all the way in this way. And then let's go ahead and do this these other posts as well. So let me rotate it just ever so slightly. Now I'm going to copy this one, so I could hold Option or Alt and drag this one. Try to match the angle. Bring it all the way up to here. Again, make sure you go all the way into the into this chain guard, and we're going to do this again. Essentially, hold Option or Alt, and I'm going to rotate this one so it's a perfect horizontal shape, and I'm going to go in like that. So there we go. Our bike is almost done. We just have a few more shapes. Okay, so we could tell we could either use the pen tool to draw this one out, or we could use an ellipse tool. So make sure it's filled with solid black, and I'm gonna hold shift, and kind of try to match it here. And I'm going to hold shift again and try to match it here. And hold shift, and I'm just dragging this to kind of, give me that shape. So now what I could do is I could click on my pen tool, and I'm going to click somewhere, maybe like on this top. Actually, I'm going to click in here within the circle. I'm going to go to this top point of the circle, because remember it had like 4 points. And then I'm going to go to the top point of this circle, go to the bottom point of this circle, and go to this bottom point, and then connect it. So now essentially we have 3 shapes. We have this circle, the shape we just made, and that circle. Now what I want to do is click on this circle, the first one, the smaller one, hold shift, click on this shape, hold shift, and select all of these. And then what we want to do is we want to go to the Pathfinder, and we want to join them by clicking on this first icon here. So that makes it all one shape. And now let's go ahead and add a stroke, because remember, if I move this one, we had some space there. If we move this wheel, we had some space there. If we move this one, we had some space there. So let me undo all that, and let me go ahead and add a white stroke up here. And I'm gonna go ahead and bump up the size of it. And then I notice it's kind of in the center of my lines. So what I want to do is I want to go outside of it. So I want to go to my stroke panel. So go to Window and Stroke. And right here we could change, align the stroke. Right now it's at the center. We could align it to the inside of our shape or to the outside. And let's do it to the outside. So there we go. And then we're gonna go ahead and create the seat. So this one I am gonna do with my pen tool. So we'll do Command plus or Control plus. And I know the seat's a little jagged. So let's try to fix that, make it a little smoother. So click on your pen tool. Make sure you do a black fill and the white stroke. And I'm just gonna click on this point. And we should already have had a little bit of practice with the pen tool. So drag this way, drag this way. Maybe drag here, here, and let's connect it here. And now let's go ahead and change our stroke to the outside as well. And there we have it. Okay, so that looks pretty much like the image we had. So if I select my selection tool and I click and drag to select all of these shapes, I could move it and I could see what it looks like. One thing that I missed was the stroke on this, the rear fork and the front fork. So let's go ahead and do those. I'm going to do Command Z to take my wheel over here. To take my bike over here, and then zoom in, and I'm gonna do this one. So I'm gonna add a stroke, and let's see, I forgot what point it was. Let's try that 9 point, and let's put the stroke outside, maybe a little less, maybe about an 8. And let's do the same to this one. If I just click the eyedropper tool and select this shape, it's gonna take up that stroke that it has. And there we go. Now one thing you notice is this little area here. So that's just the stacking of the layers. So I'm gonna see, this one's already at the top. Technically this one should be above this one in order for it not to affect the stroke. But it cannot be over this one. So this one should be at the very top. So I'm going to click on this one, and then I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. And then I'm going to click on this one, and then bring this one above that one. So basically all we're doing is in our Layers panel. If I open up my work layer, I could drag this one that's selected, which is this one, and drag this one up above that rectangle, and there we go. So now that looks good. One thing also, we could go in and further refine this. If I move this, remember this was kind of a circle shape. So if I undo that, if I hold Option or Alt, and then I click on that little circle there, that should make it a circle. Let's see. It kind of did affect, it actually did affect this corner as well. So let me undo this. And let's see if there's a way to change just an individual one. Okay, yeah, so I have to click on one of these points first, and then I could drag it in. So drag it in about there, and then click on this other one, and then drag it in. And that should have changed those without affecting these. So you have to select each one of those little points. It's hard to see. Okay, so now let's go ahead and join these two. So with your selection tool, select this one, hold Shift, and then select this one. Pretty much the handlebars and the front fork, and then go to your Pathfinder panel, and let's join these. And let's see, maybe we should not have done that. The reason why is because we lose this whole area here, so we want to keep it like that. So let's actually undo that, and then let's go ahead and click on our direct selection tool, our direct selection tool here, and click on this point and just move it back ever so slightly. And I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to click on this point, and I'm going to take it up and just to snap in here, and there we have it. So there is our bike. So go ahead and save it, and then we'll move over to the next one, which is our penguin. Now for this next one, we're going to use the rounded rectangle tool for the beak, the polygon tool for the bow tie, the rectangle tool for the feet, and the reflect tool to duplicate the other half of the bow tie and the feet. And then we're going to use the ellipse tool for everything else. So let's start off with the rounded rectangle tool. So first we click here. If it's not under here, because I only see my rectangle tool, it might be underneath these three dots. So go ahead and click here, and let's go ahead and search for the rounded rectangle tool. You could also use a regular rectangle tool, and then we could round out the edges, but here's a rounded rectangle tool. So I'm going to drag that into my toolbar. So now I have it there, and I'm going to close this and select my rounded rectangle tool. So now I'm going to do a solid color fill. Solid color, so I'm going to fill it with black, and I'm going to make sure my stroke has no fill. So I can click on that. So depending on which one I click on, my fill or my stroke, I could edit those, and I could also change it up here. So now I'm going to zoom in here to the beak area, and I'm just going to click. I'm going to line my cursor up with the edge of the beak here, and kind of like line it up here as well, so where they intersect, and then I'm just going to click and drag. And next I'm going to use the ellipse tool right here, and I'm going to do the eye. So I'm going to select my fill, and I could double click here, and I could choose white. So in order to get white, I'm going to drag it all the way to the top left and click OK. I have to make sure that I wasn't selected on this before, of course. I'm going to undo that, click outside to deselect it, and then go ahead and go to my ellipse tool, and then change it to white now. What happens is I was selected on this, so that picked up that color. Okay, so now I'm going to hold Shift, and again, I'm going to start kind of like on this top left corner where these imaginary lines meet. So the top imaginary line for this circle and the left hand side one, and then I'm going to start dragging and then hold Shift and then let go once I have that shape. Now I'm going to deselect it by selecting over here, random place, make sure I don't select anything else. And now I'm going to select my ellipse tool again, fill it with black. So this time I could actually click on this little arrow here and select black. And we're essentially going to do the same thing, but for this big circle. So it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to click and drag and hold shift. And somewhere close, so that looks pretty good. Let's say I was a little bit off. I could always just get my selection tool, move it around, and then hold shift and start dragging until I get it in the correct place. So now you notice I lost the eye. So if I go into my layers panel, I can see my layers here. So every time I make a shape, it starts stacking it on top of the next one. So the one before this was that eye, so it's going to be this one. So I could click on this little right hand corner here, empty space. So that tells me that that circle is selected. So now if I drag this one above this ellipse, it's going to put it in the correct place. So now let's see, we're going to also use the polygon tool for the bow tie. So I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to select my polygon tool, which is nested under this rectangle, ellipse tool, and my polygon tool. And I'm going to make sure I'm deselected on anything. And I'm going to change the color to black. So to get black, I drag all the way down and left. If you notice, if I go up just a little bit, there's certain colors to this and it's not a full black. So make sure you go all the way to the bottom left or all the way to the bottom right. The same with white. If you want white, if I have it right there, it's kind of close, but not really. So there's still 2% cyan, 2% magenta, 1% yellow. So I want to make it all the way to the corner so it has all zeros. So that would be a pure white. And again, pure black is all the way at the bottom left or bottom right. So now with the polygon tool, I could just click and drag. And notice how it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So I still haven't released my mouse. So if I click on my up arrow on my keyboard, I could add more sides, or if I click on my down arrow, I could subtract sides. So that's how this tool works. So obviously that's a triangle. So I'm going to go down all the way until it has three sides, and I'm going to make a triangle. So now I could go ahead and zoom in, and I could rotate it and try to match it up the best we could. And I am able to do this. I'm able to stretch it this way and stretch it this way if I need to. So let's worry about 1/2 of the side first, because then we're going to use the reflect tool to duplicate the other half, which is the bow tie and the feet. And we'll do the body as well. So there's a couple of ways we could do this main body. It says use the ellipse tool. Okay, so let's go ahead and select the ellipse tool. And now I'm going to go ahead and create this oval shape here. So click and drag. I'm not holding shift. And then I'm going to click on my selection tool, and then I'm going to kind of match it up there. Kind of match it up here. So what I'm looking for is this red outline of this shape to match with the topmost area of this shape that we're trying to match. So I'm just going to go right there. Go to this one right here. And then let's go ahead and match this side right here. Okay, so now what we want to do is we pretty much want to split this in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a rectangle tool now. And I'm going to click out here, make a big rectangle. And I'm going to match the left hand side line of the rectangle with that center point of the this oval. And we could tell that it lines up right there due to the points over here. So now I'm going to click on my selection tool, or click V. If you just click V as in Victor, it'll take you to that tool automatically. So now I'm going to use this to subtract from this one. So in order to do that, I have to select both of them. So I'm going to select the oval, hold shift, and select the rectangle. Make sure your rectangle goes past, let me deselect those. Make sure your rectangle goes past this edge. So we select everything. Again, I have everything selected. And then I could open up my Pathfinder panel. And what I want to do is I want to subtract, or so minus front. So that's going to subtract this front area. So subtract that, and now we have that shape. And now let's make the feet. So the feet we can make with a couple of rectangle tools. A couple of rectangles with the rectangle tool. So click on the rectangle tool and click here. Click and drag all the way to the bottom here. And now I could go over here and click and drag. If you just click once, you could set certain parameters like the width and the height. So we don't want to do that unless you know a specific size that you want to make. For example, like a 8-inch wide by 5-inch tall square, you would be able to do that. But right here, we're just clicking and dragging in order to match this. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel it. So now I'm going to go ahead and click here and drag. So I'm going to go into this original rectangle that we made and go down until it snaps. That way the bottom lines of these match. You do not want to make it to where it ends up like that. So you want it to match, and then these vector paths will be able to be joined a little bit better. So now I'm going to click my selection tool, select both of these, and I'm going to go ahead and group them. So in my Pathfinder panel, we have this first one here, and we could click Unite. So that makes it one solid shape as opposed to two separate shapes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the rectangle tool. Since we have equal sides on this right hand side, or equal shapes, I'm going to select this oval or half oval for the body, hold shift and select this triangle for the bow tie, and hold shift and select the feet. Or I can click and select with my selection tool activated, and I could click and drag over here, and I just want to make sure I select all of these, but I want to make sure I don't go into the head. So I don't want to go too far up and select the head. So again, and as long as you catch just the little part, so if I was to select here, for example here, just a little bit, and that's enough to make that selection. So I could do it right here, so you can see that's going to catch that, go down, and that's going to catch the leg. So I just want to make sure I select these three shapes. Now I'm going to use my reflect tool, sorry. Let's see. So it should be nested under, here it is, under this tool, under the scale tool, click and hold, and I should have my reflect tool right there. And now if I just double click it, since I have these selected, what I could do is copy, make sure I have it on vertical because I want to flip it on a vertical axis. And if I click copy, it gives me all the shapes. So now I'm going to go back to my move tool, my selection tool, sorry, and I could drag these over right now that they're still all selected because I just made a copy, and I could drag them there. Be mindful of how close you get. Again, like I said, this is not going to be perfect, but you don't want to put these feet super close. So you could be a little bit away and give it a little space. And that is it for the penguin. Actually, what I should have been doing was grouping these before, but now we could go ahead and do that now. So I could select all of these, and I could do Command or Control G, and that gives me a group, and I'm going to name this penguin. Now that cleans up my working layers a little bit. So now I could go over here, click and drag to select all these bike layers, and then hold, or let's see, you could right click and click on group. That's another way. And let's name that group. It's below because we made it first, and let's name this bike. And then all the other penguins we could go ahead and leave without grouping. So at the end, we'll start grouping all of these per page. And we'll move on to the next one. So good time to save. Command or Control S. And then we'll start on this next one. Okay, so we're going to use the gradient tool to create the highlights, and then we're going to use the ellipse and rotate tools for everything else. So it looks a little complicated, but this one's actually pretty easy. So first I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to this like center atom looking thing, the sphere. I'm going to select my ellipse tool over here in my tools panel. So click and hold and go down to your ellipse tool. For now, I'm going to make the fill black and no stroke. Then I'm going to click and drag and hold shift, and that way I create that circle. And I could always go back and change it up if I need to, change the size. Remember, I am holding shift to keep it constrained. If I don't hold shift, then it creates this oblong shape. So remember to hold shift. Now what I want to do is I'm going to use my gradient tool. So click on my gradient tool here, and then we're going to open up our gradient panel. So if you don't have it open, go to Window and Gradients. And we have, under type, we have different types of gradients. So we have a linear gradient, we have a radial gradient, and we have a freeform gradient. So first let's go ahead and click on the radial gradient. And you see I have these colors here. You might have something else. So it goes from yellow to red. And we see this thing over here, this slider. So it's technically this. It goes from yellow to the red. So to change colors, I could double click on this yellow, and I could choose a color from here. So let's go with that teal looking color, and then I could double click on this one, and let's go to orange. So we could do something like that. And now, since I am on my gradient tool, what I could do is I could click from the bottom up, and I could create the gradient. I could make a small one here. So it does that. So the more I do it, the further I get, the more of the gradient effect I get. So I could go really far like that. About the width of the circle, you know, a tighter one, things like that. So that is the linear gradient. We also have the radial gradient. So we click on the radial gradient, and now if we click and drag, it gives us like a point where it's going to be that color. So we could use this to our advantage. Instead of the teal here, we could have a light color there. So I'm going to go with yellow. And for my dark color on the opposite side, I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to go with the red. And that's pretty much it. So I could always click and drag here, you know, make it bigger, make it smaller, play with the highlight. And I also have this slider in here, so I could slide it out or slide it in, just like I could do here. So it's pretty much the same thing. And so I'm going to create a gradient here similar to what that sphere had. And I'm going to click on my selection tool once I'm happy. And the next thing I could do is I could duplicate it. So I could do Command C, Command V. So it gives me a copy. And I could scale it down, hold Shift, and I could use this one here. And another thing I could do is I could hold Option or Alt and click and drag this one, and it's gonna make me a copy. So I could drag this one here. I could pretty much make copies for all of these. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that by holding Option or Alt and then just clicking and dragging. However, I don't want all of these to be the same, so feel free to like mess around with them, you know, change the colors. So I'm going to click on one of these using my selection tool. And on this one, I'm going to zoom in and let's change the colors. So instead of yellow, I'm going to do white on this one, and instead of red, I'm going to do black. And go to the next one. So just to get more practice, I'm going to do like a light green, like a lime green, and I'm going to do a dark green. Because we got to think about it as highlight and then the full color. So go ahead and make each one of these different. So my yellow, which is the highlight, I'm gonna do like a light blue now. And let's do a dark blue for this other one. And we got a couple more. Let's go ahead and do I could select the color here too, so I could do this super bright green, and I'm gonna do a purple might not work so good. Let's do like a dark teal, and on this one, whoops, let's undo that, and select this next one, and I'm gonna go from, so you can mess around with these, the swatches, eyedropper. So if we had other colors, you could pick something from there, but we don't at the moment. So we could just click around here. This one's gonna be, let me do like a light orange, and actually let's do like a darker purple, and let's do like a pink for the highlight. Choose it here, I can drag it there. And there we go. So now all of my spheres are set. You can mess around also with the gradient. So if I just click on one and press G, or click on the gradient, and I could change this around here as well if I wanted to, just to have them looking a little different. Now for those spheres, I'm gonna just make one for now. So I'm gonna click on my ellipse tool under my color. Under my color right here, the fill, I'm just gonna choose black and go ahead and click OK. Actually, you know, that's not gonna work because we have the gradient. So go up here into our options up here and choose black from here. And let's switch this so that we have a black stroke and no fill. And let's change it to maybe a stroke weight of maybe 3 points, and let's click and drag here, and we will try to match this ellipse. So now I could go in and move it. Notice I'm doing this this vertical one first, and actually, you know what, let's go ahead and double click on our black stroke, and let's change it to a different color that stands out. So I'm going to change it to that that pinkish reddish looking color, and we're going to use the rotate tool. So that was our ellipse tool, and we are going to use our rotate tool. So we're going to click on this one, and under our reflect tool, if I click and hold, I have my rotate tool. So I'm going to double click rotate, and I could get a preview. So let's rotate it and try to get this angle. So we could manually do it, or we could use the rotate tool. So this is showing us the rotate tool. So let's see, maybe about 25. So that rotates it. It's not quite there to match this one. Let's try 30 degrees. Getting there. Maybe 35. This is going to be trial and error. Pretty close. So 38 looks pretty good. Go ahead and click OK. Actually, let me undo that and double click on rotate, or over here. It was 38, and what we want to do is click on copy, and that way it copied the version. Instead of just rotating the original one we had, it was making a copy at 38 degrees. So let's go ahead and do that again. Double click rotate, and this 38 is a little too much, so maybe we'll do 36. Turn preview off and on, and that's pretty close. So go ahead and do copy again, so that way it copies it. Double click rotate again. Looks like it might be 34 or 35. 34 is pretty good. Let's go ahead and copy it, and double click again. And this one looks like it's 34, but it's a way bigger size. So I'm going to copy it with the 34-degree rotation, and then I'm going to click my handles to match it with this bigger shape. And looks like it wasn't quite 34, but I'm gonna manually put my cursor when I'm on my selection tool, put my cursor on the corner till I get those two little arrows, and I'm gonna slightly rotate it so we have that all good. So now one thing you noticed, if we built all this up, after those spheres, so we want to bring those spheres to the top. So I could always go click on one of these and you see it selected in my layers panel. If you don't have your layers panel open, go to window and layers and it should show up. So right here it's selected, so I could bring this one all the way to the top, and there it is on the top. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's go to the blue one. We could take it to the top as well. Here's another way to bring it to the top. You could go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front, and that pretty much brought it to the top as well. Or you could do the quick command. So I'm going to go to the next one, and let's see if it tells us here. Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. So it's Shift, Command, and right bracket. So Shift, Command, right bracket, and that brings it to the top. We could also do Command, right bracket, and that, if you notice, keep an eye on the layers panel. Command, right bracket, it brings it up one step at a time until it brings it all the way to the top. Command Shift, right bracket, brings it all the way to the top automatically, no matter what. So I'm going to do that. Command or Control Shift actually, and that brings it up to the first one. And again, Command or Control right bracket just brings it up one level above. And we have our ellipse here, our center one. It's still underneath everything, however we can't see because everything is around it. But just for the sake of things, we could just go back and drag that one up. That we have all our group of ellipses of our spheres on top of the these like rotation elements. So that is it for that one. Let's go ahead and zoom out, get our selection tool, click and drag over all of these, and then do Command or Control G, or right click and go ahead and group these. So now we have a group, and in our layers panel, let's name that atom, because it looks like an atom. And that is it for that one. Let's go ahead and save it. Good time to save, and let's continue on to our teddy bear. Okay, so for the teddy bear, we're going to do the ears, eyes, head, body, and feet with the ellipse tool. And then we're going to use a polygon tool for the nose. We're going to draw one arm with the pencil tool, and then we're going to use a smooth tool as needed, so to smooth out any roughness with the arms. Then we're going to use the reflect tool to create the other arm, so we're going to basically flop it. We're going to pay attention to the stacking order, so if we see here the arms are above the main body, and then we see here the head is also above the main body, the ears are behind the head, the feet are above the main body. So we'll keep an eye on that. So we'll be updating our layers, bringing things in front, behind, all that stuff, and then we'll go ahead and add some color to it. So let's start off with the head. So we're going to use an ellipse tool. So I'm going to go ahead and select my ellipse tool, and then I'm going to choose no fill, and for the stroke I'm going to choose a black stroke. You know what, actually let's use a brighter color just so we could see what we're doing. For now, we could always go back and change the colors. So then let me increase my stroke to about 2 or 3 points. So let's go ahead, and we notice that the ears are behind the head. So remember, whatever we do first, let me show you real quick. If we just have a regular shape, and then if I create another shape and I give that one a different color, and another shape, give that one a different color. So every shape that you build, or every path that you build after another, it keeps stacking it up on top, and you could see our layers, how every shape just keeps going above. So that's pretty much how Illustrator works. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of like reverse engineer this, and we are going to I'm gonna do the bottom layer first here, and then I'll do like the main head. And then again, we could always go back and start playing with the layers and stacking them in the correct order. But for this one, let's just go ahead and build the ears. So I'm going to go back to what I had with no fill. And let me just click here with the ellipse tool and start dragging, and I'm going to go ahead and hold shift, and let me bring down my stroke to about 2 points. So I'm going to zoom into here and just remember to hold shift, and so that gives me one ear, and then we have like this middle part of the ear. So I'm going to drag and build another one, and I could use my move tool to move this one. Make sure when you click, you're clicking like right on the line of one of these paths, and then you should be able to select it. You could tell it's selected because it gets this this bounding box, so that tells you that it's selected. And then I could drag it. I notice that I still have to shape it up a little, resize it a little. So there you go. I'm going to say that's pretty good. Now I'm going to use my move tool, select both, and then if I hold Option or Alt, I could drag these to the right and drag these together, and there we go. Now we have the ears. So now the next shape, it's going to be, we're going to do the face. So again, it's going to be a series of ellipses, so just do a few of them and hold shift to drag it. So there we go, we have that. Now let's go ahead and do the eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one, holding shift like always. Use my move tool, bring it over here, and let's do another ellipse here. This one I'm not holding shift because I could tell that it's not a perfect circle right here. So I could always go back and shape this one according to that shape. So it's a little bit more of an oval. And I'm going to choose my move tool, select both of these, do Command or Control C, and then Command or Control V. And that places another group of these, and I'm going to set it here. Now I believe, yeah, it was a polygon tool for the nose. So let's go ahead and zoom in here, and let's choose our polygon tool. So I'm going to click and hold where my ellipse is at. Go to the polygon tool and just click and drag and hold shift. If you happen to have more shapes like this, or more sides actually, just use the up or down arrow key. So every up arrow key that you press, it's going to give you one more side, and every down arrow key, it's going to give you one less side. So do it till we have a triangle, and then if you hold shift, it'll keep it as a constrained triangle. And then I'm going to use my move tool to rotate it. If I hold shift as I rotate, it's going to jump to like 90, 45, 180 degrees. So that keeps it perfectly straight like that. And let me just go ahead and resize this. I could hold shift as well. If I don't hold shift, then I could make it narrower like that. So make sure you hold shift, that way you get a nice triangle. Now for this mouth shape, I'm going to use my pen tool. So if I just hit P, that takes me to my pen tool, or select it right here. And I'm going to click on this point. And let's try if we could get it like this. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to click on this part of the mouth, and then I'm going to go to the next point over here, the center, right by that tip of that triangle. And I'm just going to click and drag up. And now I'm looking at that line that it's kind of like showing us what it's going to look like, and try to get it as close as you can to that curve right here. And then just press escape, or actually choose your move tool. And now we have that shape. And we could, instead of doing copy and paste, the angle is going to be different. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to choose our move tool, click off of it, then go ahead and click back on this shape. That way it selects both points. Then we're going to click on our reflect tool, which should be nested under our rotate tool, so it should be here. Click on it and then double click it. And then we want to make sure vertical is checked because we're going to flip it on the vertical axis, and click on copy. So now go ahead and click your move tool and then just drag it to the right. No, I grabbed the wrong one. Let me grab the correct one, which is this one. So now that one has a correct shape. And there we go. So now the head of the teddy bear is done. Okay, so now let's use the pencil tool for one of the arms. So the pencil tool should be under the brush tool, the paintbrush tool, to click and hold, and its shortcut is just N. So you click on N, and now so notice we haven't changed any of these fill settings because we're just working with the stroke first, so we could see what we're doing. I'm going to zoom in a little, and I'm going to just click and drag to trace the arm. So it's not going to be perfect, but try to get it as close as you can, and we could always come back and smooth it out a bit. And once you're done over here, you're going to get that little circle next to the art pencil icon. Once you get that, that means it's going to complete the shape. So let it go, and it created that shape. So it's a little rough. So now we could actually get our smooth tool. I don't see it here. So if you don't see it here, try out your different tools. It's going to be nested somewhere under there. If you don't see it, click on this edit toolbar with 3 buttons, and let's look for a smooth tool. And here it is. So I'm just going to click this one and drag it over here. That way I have it. And I'm going to click and drag over any of these areas where you see it a little funny. Make sure we had our shape selected here. So any little problem areas, just click and drag and it'll smooth things out. So again, it's not going to match our lines perfectly, but we'll just get it as close as possible. And there we go, we have a pretty smooth arm. Okay, so now making sure our arm shape is selected, we're gonna click on our reflect tool. Now let's imagine a line going down halfway down the middle of the bear, and if we hold Option or Alt and we click, putting our cursor somewhere on that line, and this reflect tool automatically shows up, and it's going to take this as like a center line, so it'll reflect it on the other side. So I could do copy now, make sure I'm on vertical, and do copy. So now it places it almost right there, like almost based off of the center to the right. We might have to go in and nudge it a little bit to the right, and there we go. Okay, zoom out a little. Now I'm paying attention to the so we did the arms first, so those are going to be underneath the body, but we'll go ahead and change that layering order afterwards. So let's go ahead and go to our ellipse tool, and let's just go ahead and draw a big ellipse for the shape of the body. And from here we could actually make a copy, so do Command C or Control C and Command or Control V to paste it. And I'm going to drag this one in over here, and I'm going to use this for like that belly of the bear, and try to match it up as close as you can. Okay, so now let's do one of the feet. So again, ellipse tool, let's start off with our big shape. And then let's do these little shapes. So I'm not holding shift on these, I'm just clicking and dragging, and then going back and resizing according to the actual lines on the paws of the bear. And let's do the last one. Okay, so we could actually go with our selection tool, and let's go ahead and click just so we could select each one of these shapes. So I'm going to start with this paw area, hold shift, click on this one, hold shift, click on this one. Let's work our way out. Hold shift, click on this one. Make sure you click right on the line. If not, that means you're not selecting it. You might be selecting something else. Then hold shift and click on this one. So now let's go ahead and double click on our reflect tool. And the reason why I'm reflecting it is because I could tell there's a slight angle, and I want to make sure I'm on vertical and copy it. So now I'm going to hold shift and click on my right arrow just to bring it to the right, just because it's a lot of shapes to deal with. And let's actually, that might have not been the best way, but luckily we could always go in and change these around. So move these to their correct spot. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. If we would have copied it without flipping it over, that might have actually been the same shape. Who knows? But we're here now. We got it. It all looks good. So okay, so let's start giving it some color. So I'm gonna zoom in, and I'm gonna select. At this point, you could select whichever colors you want. I'm gonna get rid of this stroke and make it no stroke. And I'm gonna double click the color here, and I'm gonna choose a brown. So I'm gonna choose maybe this brown. So it's gonna be 5E3A0E. I'm gonna copy that color. I'm gonna highlight this, do Command or Control C, and click OK. And I could use that color to color in this part of the ear. So double click here. I could highlight this color, paste our color, go to OK, and then let's get rid of the stroke. So I could get rid of the stroke here, clicking on it and then clicking the none, or up here as well and click on none. So either one. So now I'm going to click on this one. I could actually do two at a time. So I could click on this circle, this inner ear circle, hold shift, click on this one, and I'm going to do no stroke. So the shape is still there, but we cannot see it because right now it has no defined stroke or fill. And I'm going to choose one of these preset layers here. So I'm going to do, whoops, let me go ahead and undo that. I'm going to go to my fill, and I want to give it this color. So there we go. So now I'm going to select the face. Again, no fill, sorry, no stroke. And then the fill, I could do that color that whoops, I could do that color that we had pasted. So I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to highlight it and do Command V to paste it, and click OK. And now we see our stacking order in effect here. This shape is behind the main face. So the eyes, let's go ahead and make them white. So hold shift, click both of them, no stroke, and let's make the eyes white. And then these pupils, I'm going to hold shift, click on both of them, remove the stroke, and let's go ahead and make them black or brown. I'm going to make these black. I'm going to select the nose, and I could also sample the color. So I could use the eyedropper tool. So click on the eyedropper tool, and I could click on that part of the ear. So it's gonna sample that color. So it's telling it has a fill of that light brown and no stroke. So that's what it's gonna pick up. Now I'm gonna select two of these mouth areas, and I'm gonna change the stroke to black. Make sure it's a stroke, because if you remove the stroke and if you do the fill, it's gonna give you something weird like that. So what it's trying to do, it's thinking you're trying to connect a shape, and it's filling that part of it. So we don't want that. So we want it flipped around, and And I'm going to go ahead and up the stroke a little bit just so we can see it a little bit more, to maybe 4 points. Okay, so now let's go ahead and just to change it up a bit, I'm going to choose a different brown for the main body here. So I'm going to choose this circle, no stroke again, and I'm going to choose a slightly different brown for the fill. So go to the fill, and that's a different one. So now this layer was created after we did the head, so it's gonna automatically place it above the head. So we want to bring that one below. So I could hold Command or Control and press the left bracket key a couple times, and you could see how it's traveling down in our layers panel as well. So keep doing it until it goes behind the head. And now I'm going to select the belly part, make sure I do no stroke, and make sure under fill I could sample. Actually, I could go up here and do, I believe it was this color. And now I'm going to select both arms, and I'm going to sample the color from the bare face. So I could always go in here, double click, and copy this color again. And I'm going to select both arms, double click on the main color, paste this color here, do OK, and get rid of the stroke. So this way we have a little bit of difference between the body and the arms. And now let's go ahead and do both feet. So I could click one, hold shift, select the other, or I could just click and drag here and make sure I barely select only those outer part of the feet. So I'm going to do those that same color as the arms and the face. I'm going to do no stroke, double click here, paste my code, which is still on my clipboard, for the brown color. And let me actually select the belly. Let me copy that color, copy it, and let's go ahead and select all of these, hold shift. So try to select all of these parts of the paw. And we'll remove the stroke. So in order to remove it, I have to make sure I'm selected on either the stroke or the fill. Double click on the fill, let's paste that color, and click OK. And there we go, there is our bear. And while we're at it, if you feel, if you're liking the color of this, feel free to go ahead and change the colors on the penguin. Just try things out, There's not a whole lot there, but feel free to do so. Okay, so next we're going to go into this shape. It seems fairly easy since knowing that we just did the spheres here. However, what we're going to do is we're going to create what's called a symbol, and then we're going to use a symbol sprayer tool to spray some of those. So first, let's start off with all of our ellipses here. So let's go ahead and select our ellipse tool, and let's choose no fill, and let's get a stroke of, I'm just going to choose blue, choose whatever color you want, and I'm going to do a stroke of 2. So I'm going to trace this this oval. We see 1, 2, 3, or 3 ellipses. So I'm going to click and drag here, and then I'm going to try to match it. And then if I hold Option or Alt, actually choose my Move tool after, and then click on Option or Alt, and then I could drag it down. And I'm holding Option or Alt and hold Shift at the same time, so that keeps it constrained to the right place. And then again, hold Option, start dragging down, and then hold Shift, and we'll do this third one. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to choose our pen tool with those same colors, And I'm going to click here on the left part, center part of that top ellipse. Hold shift and go down to the center part of this lower ellipse. And then we're going to choose our move tool. So that gives us a line here. And choose our pen tool again and do this on the other side as well. So click on this top part, hold shift, go down, click on that center part, and then go ahead and choose your move tool. So now we have that set up. So next what we're going to do is we're going to create a symbol. So what we're going to do is, actually I'm going to borrow from this. So I'm going to select one of my spheres, doesn't matter which one. I could actually ungroup this. So if I right click and do ungroup, I'm going to click on one of these spheres. Choose whichever one, your favorite one. Do Command C, Command V to copy and paste. Drag this one out. Now let's go ahead and group this whole thing back again. So I'm going to choose my selection tool. Then I'm going to click and drag over here, over everything here. This whole atom, right click and click on group. And let's go ahead and take this sphere over here. And I forgot to group our teddy bear, so this is a good time to do this. So I'm going to click and drag while I still have my my selection tool. Drag over the teddy bear, and you could also do Command or Control G, and that's going to group them. And now I could rename this group. I'm going to rename them bear. And this one was unnamed. Oh, because we just ungrouped it and we regrouped it. So this one is our atom. So I could turn that off and on. So I'm going to rename this atom. And let's go ahead and go over here. So now let's go ahead and select our sphere. I'm going to make it just a little smaller. I'm going to match one of these. Doesn't have to be exact, but you'll see why in a bit. But I just want to roughly place it there and roughly the size of one of these. And now if we go into our symbols panel, so I don't see it here, go to Window and go to Symbols. And now within our symbols panel, click on this little plus and square icon. So it's going to give us a new symbol. And we're going to name this sphere. Change this to graphic under symbol type. And I'm not sure about this one. Let's leave it at dynamic symbol and we'll see what it does. Registration, leave it at the center. And go ahead and click OK. And now we could actually delete this shape, the sphere. Go ahead and delete it because we have our symbol right here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up our, let's see, where is it? It's going to be our symbol sprayer. And it looks like a little spray can. So we have all of these here. Let me see. I believe my toolbar isn't like optimized. So let me see if I could figure out how to bring more tools in here. Okay, so I've been resetting this, so I believe it's just a way where it has less tools. So I'm going to go to Window, Workspace, and I'm going to click on Essentials Classic, and that should give me all of this. So yeah, so this looks a little more familiar. So I have more tools here. There's still more tools here, but I was used to it having a little bit more. So I had to always go back and find tools here. So that got a little bit annoying. So now we could find our symbol sprayer tool that we were talking about. So let me go ahead and open up my symbols panel right there. Go ahead and select my sphere and select your symbol sprayer tool. And now if you click and drag, it starts spraying some of these spheres. the more you spray. So that's all one grouping. If I spray more, it adds more to that group. And if I click on my symbol sprayer tool, click and hold, I could do my symbol shifter tool and go ahead and mess with these. So you could see they're all still spheres. You can mess with them. Click on the symbol scruncher tool. So this could like bring them together. Or if I do my symbols, actually symbol sizer tool, I can make some bigger. This is little clicks at a time. If I hold option, it'll make them smaller actually. And if you just click and hold, it's gonna make them huge. So you do not want to do that. So mess around with them. Also, if I go back to my symbol scruncher tool, if I hold option or alt, it's gonna push them away from each other. And if I just click without holding option or alt, it's gonna bring them a little closer together. We have our symbol spinner tool, so we could spin these. So right now the only thing that's gonna change is those highlights. So keep in mind, you could create any shape, we could create, for example, we could bring in the whole teddy bear, create a symbol out of it, and then we could spray a bunch of teddy bears, make them bigger, smaller, spin them around, all that stuff. So we could apply all that to that shape. We have the symbol strainer tool. I'm not familiar with that one. Yeah, I'm not familiar with these. So feel free to like do a little research and find out about these, but these are the main ones for that symbol sprayer tool. So we'll call that one done. Go ahead and save it. Good time to save. And let me deselect out of here. And let's go ahead and go into the train. So as you could tell, this one gets a little bit more complicated. I'm gonna make this one optional, but I'm gonna say give it a shot. So think of this one as again, like the teddy bear. Think of what goes on top of other layers and things like that. Use color. So look at like some of the basic shapes. So I'm gonna click on my rectangle tool, and I'm gonna do a solid color of one of these grays and no stroke. You could add a stroke if you want. So I could click and drag over this, and then what I could do is I could build this shape here as well. Now this one is almost like a rectangle, however it has angles. So I could click here and make this one. And what I could do is I could click on my direct selection tool, click on this one, this point, and if I hold shift and right click, I could go 2 times, select this one, hold shift and go left 2 times, and there we go. And we could actually scale it up just a little bit over here, and we could change the color on it if we want. So let's change it to that, a little bit of a grayish blue. So there we have that shape. And if you want to skip some of these, you could, but instead of making 3 different squares here, you could make 1 or 2. But it shouldn't be too hard now. So I'm gonna drag that one. I'm gonna make a new one right next to it. Click and drag on that one. Change this color to black. And I'm gonna make another one. And change that color to, I could always click on I, the letter I, and that's going to take me to my eyedropper tool and select this color. And I'm going to do this one. Change the color here as well. I'm just doing random colors at this point. So you should have the basics of, all these shapes, most of these shapes. One thing we could do is, for example, here we have this sphere. So I'm going to start that one off with the sphere, and I'm going to just click and drag, and I'm going to shape it roughly that shape. Now if you notice, right here it gets cut off by a square or a rectangle. So I'm going to select my rectangle tool, and I'm going to do a bigger rectangle going up to about there, about here, where that line is at. And I'm going to use this to subtract the shape from this one. So I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to go to my Pathfinder panel. So I don't have it. So I could go to Window, Pathfinder. And I'm going to subtract from the front. So minus front, this one. So that's going to subtract that shape. So now we have this shape. And now we could go back and create our rectangle and, you know, change the color on this one. And then for something like this, we could always use a rounded rectangle tool. Click and drag here. And we could go to our layers panel. So go to layers panel, bring this up here, and we could just bring that one below both of these shapes, and there we have it. That's one way to do that. And again, we could, let's see, for this one we could actually maybe do some slicing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my rectangle tool, and I'm going to do this shape first. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to choose my direct selection tool. That way I could click a point on this one and hold shift and drag it this way. So something like that. And I could tell it is sliced like 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So I could choose my knife tool. And actually here it is right underneath our scissors, our eraser tool or scissor tool, we have our knife. And I'm just going to do some slices here. I could always undo them. And I don't have to follow it all per se. So, you know, I could always make these different colors as well. So now I could select one of these and make it darker, or change that and change this one. And you should be able to do the circles. You should be able to create shapes here. You could use your pen tool. So I'm gonna do this as well. So I could choose my pen tool, and I'm gonna click here. I could click here, here. Now it's taking the color of that I have over here. So it's doing that. Now if I click and drag here, I could get that curve. And then if I hold Option or Alt and click on this point, so now I could go over here and pick up this angle. And I could bring it here and click there. And then I could build my tires over that. I could change the color on this. So try to build as much of this as you can. Those are like the main things. After that, like, you could pretty much see everything else as ellipses and rectangles. So you should be able to finish that one. Once you're done, group it. So I'm just going to go ahead and group it now. Right click and do group. And I'm going to name this train. And once again, I keep on forgetting. Let's go ahead and zoom out on this one. Select everything with my selection tool. And then you could do Command or Control G. And let's name this one, we'll name it Bubbles. And so there we go. Now we're creating all these groups. Okay. So a good time to save. And next we're gonna do this this compass. So to start with this one, let's examine it a little. We have repeating shapes in a spherical fashion, so in a circular fashion. So we could probably repeat these things over and over. We'll have to like manually create this one, and then it's just type So it looks a little complicated, but it should be fairly easy. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna start off with, let's start off with this top shape right here. So I'm gonna use my pen tool and I'm going to create this shape here. So I'm gonna build it with stroke just so I could see what it's doing first. So if I click on this little switching icon here, swap fill and stroke, so that we have a stroke of a certain color, and I'm gonna up it to 2 points and make sure it has no fill. So I'm simply just gonna click on this top point, click over here and trace it, go down here. It doesn't matter if we go into these circles because this shape is gonna be behind those circles, so it will be hidden. So I'm gonna just make sure that my line matches up here with the shape. Go here, here, and go ahead and connect it. Okay, so now we have that basic shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a line segment tool. So our line segment tool should be right here under the spiral tool. If yours is already there, go ahead and select it here. And I'm going to click and drag halfway down this shape. And now I'm going to deselect, so I'm going to select outside and then select both of these. And I'm going to use my pathfinder and I'm going to do divide. And now what I have is two separate shapes. So if I click on my group selection tool, which should be nested under here, not my direct selection, but group selection, I'm going to select this one and I'm going to swap it here. And so now I have two separate shapes. Now one thing you notice, this one, the stroke of it is actually going past there, so it looks a little funny. So if we go into our strokes panel, let's go to window and stroke. And let's go ahead and open up the options for our stroke. So go to the little hamburger icon on the top right. That gives us our options. So click on show options. And let's change our stroke to the inside. So align stroke, right now it's at the center. So our main vector line is at the center and the stroke is aligned to the center. So if we click on the inside, it's going to bring it inside, and then so that's going to look a little bit better. It's a little bit off, but you know, that's fine. We could leave it like that. That's no big deal. So now I'm going to select with my selection tool, select this shape and move it out of the way a bit. And now let's go ahead and create this shape. So with that, I'm going to use my pen tool. Make sure I deselect from this. Click on my pen tool, and I'm going to make sure my stroke is has a color. So I'm going to choose green for now, and my fill has no color. And I'm just going to go here and I'm going to click down here and just start click and drag. Find a few points, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag here. Then I'm going to click here. So no drag right there since it's kind of a corner. And then bring this down, bring it here, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect it. So now I'm going to click on my selection tool, and I'm going to use my my reflection tool to go ahead and reflect it over to this side. So it is right here. I'm going to double click click cancel, select my selection tool, click away, and then click on this shape. Because if we were in our pen tool, it might only pick up like a few of the last points, so we want it to select everything. And then double click, and we're going to make sure vertical is checked, and then click on copy because we want to make a copy. I'm going to click my selection tool, and then I'm going to drag this to the left. So there you go. It doesn't match exactly, but it's pretty close. And then I'm going to go ahead and make choose my ellipse tool to make these little circles. So choose this one, make one right here. So I'm starting off with the ones in the back, and then I'm going to do this one because it appears to be over that top one right here, and make another one. So now I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to give them, I'm going to change the stroke to black, and I'm going to change the fill to, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to choose, make sure I'm on the fill, and I'm going to choose this color. So there you go. So there we have that shape. And I'm going to move this one over here. And I'm actually going to change the stroke on this to, well, I got to make sure since it's two separate, remember when we split this, it is actually two separate shapes. So I'm going to go back to my group selection tool, this one, click on this one. I'm going to make sure I choose black for my fill, and on this one it's going to be black for my stroke. And there we go. So now it's looking like something. So that is that. Now let's see if there's another way that we could do this this triangle as opposed to this when we split it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually create this shape. So I'm going to use my pen tool and see if this works. Actually, let me just use my my polygon tool. I'm going to click and drag and make sure I have like a triangle, and hold shift. If I don't have a triangle, again use my up or down arrow keys down to go all the way down to a triangle, and hold shift. And so it doesn't matter at this point. You could have it with the stroke, a fill. So mine has a black stroke, no fill. And I'm going to bring it down here. Kind of match that. And bring it down here. I want to bring it all the way in the inside because that's going to be covered eventually with these shapes. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna go ahead and make a copy of this. So I'm gonna do Command C. So that copies it, and then I'm gonna do Command or Control F to paste it in front. So that now that made a complete copy of it, but right in the front of it. So if I click on my selection tool, if I click and drag, I have two copies over each other. So now I'm gonna undo that. And that way I have both of them lined up with each other. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my line segment tool, and I'm going to click in the center here. Actually click and drag, go down and hold shift. And now let me split this. So I'm going to go to my selection tool, and then I'm going to hold shift and click on this triangle. And I'm going to go ahead and divide it. And now I'm going to get my selection tool because now there's basically two shapes, right? And then I'm going to click on my left one and then just hit delete. Okay, so now I have this half of the triangle and this full triangle. So I'm going to undo that, and then on this one I'm going to switch the colors on the right piece. And I'm going to change the fill to black, and this other one should have, let's leave it at no fill. So now I have that shape, so I'm going to select it with the selection tool, click and drag, and then we're going to group this. So Command or Control G. So now that is a group itself. So now I want to make a copy of this, and I want to rotate it. So let's do a little bit of math here. So obviously if I go from here to here, that's going to be 90 degrees. Math is not my strong suit, but we'll try to figure this out. So let's see if this works out. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have 16 of these points, so let's get the calculator. And I know that a circle has 360 degrees. So let's do 360 divided by 16. So each one of these should be at 22.5 degrees from each other. So let's see if this works out. So I'm going to go ahead and select this shape and click on my rotate tool. So it should be nested right by my reflect tool. Now I'm going to put my cursor here, where is the center of like these intersecting lines for north, south, east, west. And I'm going to hold Option or Alt and click. And now let's do 22.5. Turn on preview, and it looks like it lands in the right spot. So we're going to do copy. And we want to copy that several more times. And so instead of doing that, we could also go to Edit. Let's see. I don't remember where it is, but I remember the shortcut, and it is Command or Control D. And that basically redoes your last step. So we'll do Command D. And I'm going to take it all the way around. Command D, Command D. And this looks like it was correct. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on my selection tool. I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to group them, Command G. And I can move them out. So now I have that. And now what I could do is I could work on this. So I am going to, let's see. I'm going to make a circle first. So I'm going to get my ellipse tool. Drag this, hold Shift. And then I'm going to make another circle, hold Shift, and hold Shift as I resize it. Okay, so now I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to make sure my fill is, I'm going to just choose a color for your fill. And I'm going to choose my bottom ellipse tool and go to my layers panel, and let's swap these. So let's get the bottom one and put it on top, and there we go. So now that one shows, and we could go ahead and change this later. And I'm going to make another ellipse, hold Shift, and bring this one below. I'm going to change its opacity. Bring it down a little just so we could see through and see the lines before underneath it. So let's hold Shift, make that a little bigger, and let's do one more. And let's actually bring this one below. And let's actually make the next one. Hold Shift, and let's bring that one below again. Change its opacity as well. Just drop it down a bit. And let's shape this one up. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to align all of these perfectly. So I want to, let's see, maybe I want this one above. There we go. So I want to be able to see all of them. And then what I want to do is click on my selection tool, select and drag all of these, and then we're going to align them. So we're going to align them horizontal align center. So click on that, and then we're going to do the horizontal align vertically, vertical align center. So this aligns them so they're all perfectly aligned. And if you saw they were slightly off, but they were off nonetheless. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on my line segment tool, and I'm going to use my guides, my smart guides. So if I go over here, if I'm just slightly off, nothing happens. But if I'm right here, you could see how it gets that pink line. So I'm going to click and drag and hold Shift and go down here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click away, select it with my move tool, with my selection tool. And I'm going to select my rotate tool. And now I'm going to put my cursor right in the center, right here. I could zoom in if I want to. And get close to the center of these circles, and you could see it's going to tell you center. And if I hold Option or Alt and click there, and let's use that same 22.5 degrees, and let's do copy, zoom out, and then I'm going to copy that, Command D, keep going over and over and over. And now what I want to do is, let's go ahead and select this inner circle, both of these inner circles, and let's lock them. So this way I held Shift to select them, and then I'm going to lock these. So lock these right here, that way we can't select them. And I'm going to select all of this. Actually, before I do that, or you know what, maybe now, yeah, we can do it. So let's go ahead and change the opacity on each one of these. So I'm going to select this circle, change the opacity back to 100. Select this circle, change the opacity back to 100. And now I'm going to select everything. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on the divide. So now we have that group. And now let's go ahead and bring our locked ellipses. Let's go ahead and unlock those. Click on both of these, hold Shift, and drag them up. So now we have that shape. And I'm going to select all of this, and I'm going to change my color to something different. This is optional. And now I'm going to drag this whole group over here. Actually, before I do that, let me undo that. Let me select this whole group, and then do Command or Control G. So that makes it a group. And then I'm going to drag this one over here. And now I'm going to select both of these groups, and I'm going to do the center, horizontal align center, and the vertical align center. So now that aligns it. So now I'll select both of them, and I could better align them here. So there we go, we have that. And now I'm going to, that was pretty much the hard part. So then the next part, I'm just going to make two more circles, and then we could type in the north, south, east, west, and we could call that done. So I'm going to make sure I have no fill here, and it is just the black stroke. So I could hold Shift, drag this, resize it, and go ahead and make another one. And I'm gonna click on my selection tool, move it to the left, and now I can select everything here. Make sure I don't select that top area, and then let's go ahead and align it again, vertically and horizontally. And so now there we have it. So now we could click on our type tool, and I'm going to click and drag to put a square here, and I'm going to type an N, highlight it, and then I could go into my character panel. So let's go into Window, Type, and then select Character, and go ahead and choose a font that you like. So choose this ATC Citrine. It doesn't have a bold, but I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger. And I'm going to set it there. And then I'm going to hold Alt or Option and drag this one over here. And then I'm going to double click it, and then it gives me my type tool. Type in the capital E, so Shift E, selection tool, just place it over here. Hold Option or Alt to copy this one, go over here. I could also click on my type tool, select the E, type in an S, And I'm going to hold Option or Alt, drag this one, and type in a W, double click, highlight it, and type in a W. So you could choose any font you want, but this is pretty much done. So let's go ahead and save it. Okay, and now let's do this. It looks like it's a star that goes into a circle. So we're going to do two shapes first. So I'm going to first build an ellipse tool. Select my ellipse tool. And I'm going to select, I'm going to swap this so that I have a stroke. I'm going to choose a color just so I can see, like a green. No fill. And I'm going to hold Shift and drag that circle. Let me change it to that magenta. I feel like that one stands out a bit, and change my stroke to 2 points. So let's go ahead and size it up here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and click on my ellipse tool and then go to my star tool. And with the same thing, hold Shift, and I'm gonna create a star. And then let's kind of move it into position. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but we could get it pretty close. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to zoom out. I want to select both of these. So select the star and select the circle. Hold Shift and click it. So now both of them are selected. So once we have these selected, go to Object, Blend, and Make. So that blends them. So right now we have to specify the steps. So we only see one where it kind of becomes a blob, and then it goes into the circle. So let's click on our blend tool. So double click it, and let's click on, for spacing, let's click on specified steps, and let's try 40. Turn your preview off and on. So now you could see how it creates several steps to get from a star to a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now I'm going to click on my direct selection tool. And it's a little hard to see, but there's a red line that goes from the star to the circle. So I'm going to click it, and I could move it. So what I want to do is I want to get this curve right here, so I could click on my anchor point tool, click on that one, and then I'm going to click on this bottom point, and then I'm going to drag to create that curve. So essentially I'm creating this, and I could always, you know, click and drag this one as well, so you could shape it up however you want. So that's pretty close. So basically what that's doing is it's blending it with a specified number of steps. We did 40 steps. So now I'm going to go back to my move tool, or my selection tool. I could double click on these, and let's change our stroke to a different color. I'm going to go green, and I'm going to change my fill to maybe this blue. Click OK. So now you can see what's better happening. It's going from a star to a circle. Now the reason why it looks a little funny is because I kind of did it backwards. The star's in front. The star was in front of, or on top of the layer, whereas the circle was below. So if I would have done it the other way around, it would have had the circle in the front. So let's actually try that again. So let's delete it. Let's actually make the star first. This time I'm gonna set it with let's see, a green color and a, let's see, red stroke so we could see. And I'm gonna make the star, and I'm gonna put that one here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do my ellipse tool and do the circle here. Go to my move tool, or my selection tool. Select both of these, go to Object, Blend, and Make. And then double click on my blend tool. change it to specified steps. Let's do 40 again. Click OK. Now let's click on our anchor point tool. If you don't have it there, click and hold under the pen tool, click on that, and this gives us the curve. So we just click and hold, or click and drag, sorry. This will let us create that curve here. So go ahead and mess around with it. You can mess with the colors, all that stuff, the stroke. And go ahead and save it. And let's move on to the next one. Okay, so for this one, we're going to draw a rounded rectangle, and then we're going to fill the yellow end stroke with red, and then we're going to use a knife tool to cut off one end. Then we'll use a 3D revolve filter to complete the shape. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to use the rounded rectangle tool, and let's go over here. Actually, make sure we're deselected. So I'm going to choose my selection tool, click over here to make sure we're deselected from everything else. And then let's go ahead and click on our rounded rectangle tool. And I'm going to roughly create this shape. Make sure I go past it right here. And let's go ahead and choose a red for my stroke. I'm going to choose that darker red here, and I'm going to go ahead and choose a yellow for my fill. So then it said we're going to use the knife tool to cut off one end. So I'm going to move it, choose my move tool, or my selection tool, clicking on V as in Victor. That takes me to it automatically. Let me drag this down a bit so I could see it's cut off a little bit here. So I'm going to use not my slice tool, my knife tool up here. So it should be nested under my eraser or scissors tool. And then I'm just going to slice off this left edge. And then I'm going to select my group selection tool, select this left part, and go ahead and delete it. So now let's drag this up. So we're going to go up to Effect, 3D, and Revolve. If you're running an older version, sorry, a newer version, I have 2021. You might have to go to Effect 3D Classic, look for that one, and then we'll do Revolve. And then we're going to mess with these settings. So let's mess around with the angle here. That way maybe we could get the slice that's cut out. So I don't know why it's not showing me the yellow inside. There we go. And I could click and drag this this shape. And maybe it's just the rendering here. So there we go. So that looks something like what we should have. And then go ahead and click OK. So my angle was 279. You could always, you know, mess around with this shape. So actually my angles right here on the first one is -15 degrees, 19 degrees, and -4. And on this one it was 279. This is the one that gave me that cutout. So it looks like a, you know, block of cheese with a slice cut out. And then go ahead and click OK. So now that is part of that 3D effect. And let's go ahead and save it, and we'll go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so for this one, we're going to create another 3D shape, and it's going to be a bottle. But however, we're also going to create a label for it, and we could type in whatever we want, and we're going to save that into our symbols panel. So first, we're going to go and create this shape. You could follow along just with this, or you could do something different. So I'm going to do something a little different. So I'm going to click on my type tool. I'm going to name this Sam's Beer. And I'm going to select all of this actually with my type tool, Command A, and I'm going to go into my character panel and I'm going to change the font. So something that's a little more easy to read. And I'm going to do Command A. I'm going to go to my paragraph panel. I'm going to do center text. I'm going to change this to maybe a blue. Let's go with a little bit darker blue. And I'm going to change beer to a different font. So let me go to these characters. Let me do that. And I'm going to maybe do this different color. So let me do like a slight orange color for this one. Okay, and now since it all is in one type box, I'm gonna close up my letting. So I'm gonna just click auto here, and maybe I'll make it smaller. So maybe 36. I'm gonna make beer a little bit bigger in size. And maybe I want that top part of that B to overlap Sam's beer. And I'm going to go ahead and say that's good. So I'm going to right click it and then click on create outlines. So now this whole shape is outlines. And then I'm going to choose a background for it. So let me go ahead and do an ellipse tool first. So I'm going to hold shift and drag a circle, and then I'm going to create another one. This one may be a rectangle, and I'm going to do a rectangle here. So let's go ahead and change these. So I'm going to change my circle to let's see, maybe a lighter color, maybe a light blue, almost white, and we'll see how that looks. And then I want to put it above, go to my layers panel, and I want to put that above the ellipse, above the rectangle. And then let's go ahead and place Sam's beer, or whatever you typed. Place that above everything, and let's go here. Maybe I'll resize it, hold shift. And let's make our circle a little smaller. And let's make this rectangle a different color completely. Let's make it, let's see how brown looks. It doesn't look too good. Let's see how yellow looks. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this circle, and I'm going to make this my label. What if we do black? Maybe I'll choose beer. So I'm going to choose my group selection tool, and I'm going to choose each one of my letters. So hold shift, and I'm going to change this to black. There we go. I think that reads better. So I'm going to center I'm going to select with my selection tool, select the name that I put as well as my my label, and I'm going to go ahead and center it vertically, center it horizontally. And so that's going to be my label. I'm going to select everything, go to my symbols panel, and then create a new symbol. So click on that little square, the plus icon. I'm going to name this Sam's beer label. So you can name yours whatever it is, and change it to a graphic, dynamic symbol. Registration should be at the center, and go ahead and click OK. Okay, so now we're going to build this shape for the bottle. So this is just simply a series of we could see it. So this could be a rounded rectangle. This one could be a rectangle as well, but not rounded, and we could make these sizes smaller so we could get the angle there, and this could be another rounded rectangle. So let's start off with the bottom one first. So let's go rounded rectangle tool, and I'm going to, yeah, black is fine, so I'm gonna just click and drag, and I'm gonna have it in black. Next we're gonna do our regular rectangle tool. So we're gonna get the we're gonna start here. Actually, we're gonna be joining these, so what we want to do is we want to create it from the inside of this first shape that we did. So we're gonna go up to about there. So I'm trying to match it up with this side, and then I'm gonna go up until about halfway within that like top part of the where the lid would go on the bottle. So now we want to select our direct selection tool, and we're going to click and drag to select both of these points. So just the top ones, the bottom ones are not selected. Now we're going to double click on our scale tool, and what this is going to do, it's going to shrink this top part just because that's selected. So let's try maybe like a 75, turn our preview off and on. So see that gets smaller up here. So maybe we want to push it a little bit more, try 50, might be too much, but actually maybe a little bit more. Let's try 40, maybe a little too much, so let's go to 45. And I'm just going to click OK and call that good. So now we have, I'm going to move this around, and then we're going to choose our rounded rectangle tool again and try to match, click and drag and match this part of the bottle. So now what I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit, click on my selection tool, click and drag this one here. Now I'm going to select all of these three shapes, and I'm going to line them up horizontally. So that lines them all up, and then I'm going to open up my Pathfinder panel, and I'm going to click on Unite. So I'm going to click on this first one so it makes it all one solid shape. So let's go ahead and save this for now. And then if you see the next step, we're gonna cut out half of the bottle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold Option or Alt and drag this bottle to the right over here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and select my rectangle tool. And I'm gonna click and drag a big rectangle bigger than the bottle and a little wider too. Then I'm gonna select my selection tool, and I'm going to drag it to the left until I get this pink line that intersects it like at halfway. And maybe we could change our color on this shape to change it to like a red, burgundy, and change my opacity to about 50%. And now I could see to where it snaps about halfway. Now I'm going to go ahead and change my opacity back to 100, select both of these. We want to leave this bottle intact in case we need to come back to it. And we're going to go to our Pathfinder panel, and we're going to do minus front. So it's going to subtract whatever is on the front here. And now we have our bottle shape. If we took off too much, we could always go in and click our direct selection tool. Click and drag so that we go from the top to the bottom and select both points. And if we just use our arrow key, we could move them, and there we go. And we could also go this way if we want, as long as those are selected. So let's go here, and there we go. Okay, so now what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and select it and change the color on this one. So I'm going to change it to like a brown, something about like what's right here. Click OK. And then I'm going to go to Effect. Let's see here. So we use a knife tool to cut the object in half. No stroke color. So yeah, we kind of did all this a different way. So now we're going to go to Effect, 3D, and go to Revolve. Now go down here, see how it says offset 0 points from left edge. If it looks like this, if it looks like a cylinder, go ahead and change this left edge to right edge. So now it should look like a bottle. And now we could, you know, rotate it a bit, and you could see the wireframe as we're doing it. Let's put it at a point where we could see the top a little bit, and we could see the side of the bottle. And then we're gonna go to map art. So down here, click on map art. So we could go to the different surfaces. So we could go, let's see, number 2 would looks like it would be the top. Let me navigate through all of these. Number 3 looks like it's this part of the cylinder. So let's see, let's find this circle, and let's find the symbol, and let's go ahead and put Sam's beer on there. And I'm going to go ahead and resize it. And I'm going to turn preview off and on. So maybe that's the wrong one. That might be the bottom of the bottle. So let's go ahead and go to this one. Let's go ahead and put Sam's beer on there. And put this here so it automatically rotates it, and we could resize it a bit. I'm going to hold shift. And there we go. And let's go ahead and go to other areas of this. So here we go. That might be the top. Sam's beer. And actually, yeah, maybe we don't want this one. So I'm going to drag it out of here. Let's go to maybe this one. So this is it. So it was this last one. So hold shift, make this smaller. And I could see in real time like where it's at right here. So and then I could rotate it so that it kind of matches the angle here. We want it to be the correct position. Something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK and OK again. And there we go. We have our 3D shape, our bottle. And it has a whoops. And it has a label on the top and a label on the side. And it has like all those 3D effects. And once you are done, go ahead and save this. Zoom out. We have everything done. That's perfect. Go ahead and save this and then turn in your Illustrator file. So I'm going to save it, close it, close out Illustrator. So then go ahead and find your file. So go to Advanced Pen Vector Tool Assignment. Make sure you choose the one with your name that has all the work that you did. And this is the one you're going to submit. So make sure it's not the one that I gave you, but the one with your name. And we are done with this project. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next tutorial.